Hey everybody, alright, so today's tutorial is going to be a little interesting because there's going to be multiple approaches to this. What I'll be showing today is how to go from pixel art assets to voxel art. So this can range from small to large assets. I will show you guys small and then I'll show you guys large. And the small ones will be a lot easier to make an approach, but you're gonna see what I'm going to talk about. So first things first, I'm just going to take these assets that Lou provided me and drag them into Qubicle. So everything that's a pixel art asset, if you have a JPEG or PNG of it, you can just drag into Qubicle, and it's going to render out perfectly fine as a voxel asset. Problem is, of course, it's only one layer, since it's two-dimensional, and what I recommend doing is, depending on what it is, JPEG, I believe, will give you an output of white. That is, if you give the asset a white background. Otherwise, by default, if you give a transparent background to the sprite, the background that will present in Qubicle is black, like pitch black, like 000 black. So if you do have any 000 black pixels in your asset, make sure that the background that you're providing on the exported sprite is not transparent, or otherwise you're gonna remove concurrent like voxels, depending on if you do contiguous or non-contiguous highlighting. Either way, be aware that transparent equals black, like completely black. There you go. Anyways, so once you've removed that background, what I recommend doing is to split up the assets, and by splitting them up, you highlight them, and you can hit the insert key on your keyboard if you're using a PC. I don't know what the shortcut is for Mac. It should be something similar, and it'll remove it from the matrix and give it its own individual matrix. We're gonna do that, this, and this. And then we can get rid of the empty.matrix. So this is all the assets. We're going to move that off to the side, and we're going to work on one of them. I will show you guys two methods. Method one, which I only recommend doing with very small assets, is to take a piece, like an asset. Also, I highly recommend duplicating. Like when you want to start working off of a sprite, just duplicate the sprite, either copy pasting or holding down Control and dragging. That way, if you mess up on the sprite that you're working on to voxelize, it's okay. You have the original to go back to. So it's good asset management, and you're not gonna screw yourself over by wasting time on something that you didn't do right. Anyways, type version 1, like the first type that you can do, is to take an asset and then hold Control, go on top view, and just keep hitting back until you get the amount of layers, the depth that you want. In this case, we can do a depth of, like 5, I think I did here? Yeah, 5. Then you're going to fuse it all together with Boolean union, and then you enter it. So you're going to do that. Another way of doing that exact same thing is to duplicate the asset from the original sprite, enter it, hit R, which is, I did that shortcut for myself. The tool that you're going to be using is the is the resize tool. You're going to use a resize tool to then extend the matrix to whatever depth you want. And then from there, you can go to your move tool, hold Control A to select the entire sprite. And then from there, you can just go all the way. It's a few steps difference, but sometimes this is easier to manage than to fuse all the sprites together. Fuse a bunch of duplicated sprites. Either way, the results are the same. So we're going to take this guy here. And this is one way that you can go ahead and make voxel assets out of a sprite. And this only works, and I highly recommend to only do this when you're working with very small sprites, like this one here. This would be considered very small. And I will show you in a bit later why. So what you do is you delete whatever cubes you carve off of the sprite, and it's like, okay, cool, this is gonna work. I don't really have to care about what's on the sides because that's just how it is. But what you want to do is just have a basic understanding of the sprite itself and what the object is. And I can just go like, okay, I'm going to do this, get rid of that, get rid of this. All right, we're good. There, we got ourselves a nice little rack for the vials, and we're good to proceed. So that can be one version. Another way you can do it is like this. We're going to take the cauldron. This one's a little bit tricky. We're going to take the cauldron. As you can see, it has an odd perspective. The lighting is coming from an angle, and you notice that it only has 3 legs, but really what it is that you can tell this is one leg equals equals one, like one block equals one leg, and these, oh, okay, so these must be stacked next to each other. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna isolate the legs, we don't need them right now, and we're gonna minimize the space. So one technique I recommend doing for this, I kind of screwed myself up, is just to expand by 1 on all sides. What you're gonna wanna do is expand by 1 on all sides. And from there, go into the matrix and go on the add tool and just start adding voxels around. Choose a color like pitch black, something, or a dark gray, one that at least opposes that of the sprite that you can be working with, so you don't confuse yourself, and you'll see in a moment why. Just gonna do this real quick, and there you go. Okay, so we're gonna take that. Now we're going to remove the asset. And this is a technique I was taught by a former colleague of mine, and it works beautifully, especially on this technique only works on symmetrical assets, like spheres or vases or anything that is going to be identical in all directions. That is what I recommend. That's what I recommend doing, is to create a silhouette. And once you've created that silhouette, remember, what is the width of the asset? The asset's going to be, well, actually, take it off of this. It's okay, so it's 18 in depth. 18 in width. We're going to want to do 18 in depth, so that it's going to end up being perfectly round when we do the following. So we're going to take this, we're going to push it all the way to the end, we're going to duplicate it all the way through to kind of create a silhouette box. And once you've created this box, what you want to do is duplicate it and then rotate it using the rotate Y. And there you go. So now we're going to keep doing this, rotate, grab it and rotate now 45 degrees off the Y-axis. So what we're doing is we're creating a mold. It's one way to create a mold, so that way when you, I just want to make sure that it's perfectly even on all sides. It's gonna be a little bit off, but that's fine. We can edit those things later. So I'm gonna take this one again, duplicate that. We're gonna give a rotation of -45. Doesn't really matter since it's a vase. It's going to be the same on all directions. We're gonna do -15 now. Or, well, we can't do half of 45. It won't really work. It doesn't do decimal in Qubicle. There you go. So we do that. Then we can flip it on the X so that it duplicates on the other side. And either way, the idea here is, like I said, to create a mold. Rotate on the Y. Okay, good. You're fine. Rotate on the Y. All right, good. And then we're going to fuse it all together, and we're going to use the fill hollow tool. So fill hollow, what that does is we've actually created an empty space. If we go hit spacebar here, you're gonna see there's actually an empty space which shapes your asset that you want to make. You've created a mold now that you can work off of. It looks pretty broken up inside right now, but you're gonna see the results are gonna be pretty interesting. So what you're gonna do is fill hollow. Once you fill the hollow, you can now magic wand the entire shell and delete. Now you've created some weird shaped object, and now if we were to select, say, another color like a darker white, so you've kind of created something here that can be conceived as a vase. Like I said, this is a little, I kind of rushed it, but you get the idea. The more molds you've created, the more you rotate objects on it, the better it's going to look, and you can actually then rotate. You can then mirror if you want to make it easier, and there you go. You've got yourself a nice vase. So often one side, I'll show you again. So what I did was I mirrored, because I noticed that this here is actually the correct like curvature of the object. So I figured, okay, so we're gonna rotate this on either the Z or X, so long as I rotate it, I mirror it on on the opposite axis. Then you can do this Z again, and boom, you got yourself the proper vase shape. So, or in this case, a pot, a cauldron. Well, now once you've created this shape, what you're going to want to do is take the sprite, place it in front. See, this is a little bit off, which is fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to place it in front, like this. Place it in front of the asset. Fuse the two together to kind of create a template to work off of. So what we're going to do is actually adjust for the mistake that I've made, which is to, there we go. So now that should be about right. Yes, we can actually increase the depth now, so it's perfectly symmetrical. There you go, nice and round now. So you can make all these adjustments, but this is an easy, a simpler way to actually to make complicated shapes, or well, symmetrical shapes. Just works with heads. Well, less so with heads if you actually do the base of the skull. But either way, that's how you can make a shape. Now you could take the sprite, put it in front, select the bucket tool, and do Alt-click on the color that you're gonna then highlight, and you could just pierce. And you can do this rectangle tool. It's like it used to be a rectangle tool, but now it's on the bucket tool where you can highlight segments. And right now it looks like I'm just going over the color, but the results will be good. I'm gonna Alt that, select to select it, Alt-click the color to select it again. And now the last color. And voila. So the results that you get are as follows. See, so now you're almost one step away from being complete. You're gonna reduce the size, make sure you're done. And now finally is just to do the little touch-ups that normally you would hate to do. In this case, just do that just to get the nice shape that we want. Delete all of that. Now we can actually highlight the top instead of clicking for every single one. Highlight the top, control highlight to remove whatever is highlighted. There you go, and delete the selected. So now we got ourselves a little cauldron. The lighting is reflected on both sides. If you only wanted it to be on one side, you can just go ahead and select and decolor. So it's like, okay, cool, the lighting is coming from one direction. Because technically this wouldn't make sense. How can the lighting not hit this if it's hitting this? So there we go. We got ourselves a cauldron, and we see these little feet on there. We could, instead of placing it directly like this, we notice, like, okay, we get the shape of this. So what we're gonna do is select the same color. We're gonna select that color, which is pretty much the base of it. Extend it by resizing by 1. All right, and now what I'm gonna take, I kind of messed myself up there. I'm gonna place this exactly there, so that when I'm in here, I can see exactly what positions these would be in. So that would be there. You can do either that, or what we can do is have what I'm assuming is going to be like this. It's the only explanation for me, at least, for the feet. And there you go. We got ourselves the feet for the cauldron. Ta-da! So that's 2 techniques, and I'll show you a third one, which is what I recommend for larger assets. So I'm going to import something from Voxels, Voxelwork, VR, RPD Dungeon, Mockup 1. Okay, so this is something I made a while back, which I'm not done yet still, and this is the trunk of the tree. As you can see, it's very complicated. And the way I approach this, you see there's a lot of, like, this is all stuff that's hidden. It doesn't really matter if I was incomplete because it's just a mock-up. Doesn't need to be a final, like, it's just to create a render. So it's okay. But either way, so this here, whoops, click the little sprite thing. So what this was a flat sprite before. This was only one thing like this. And, rather, it was more like this. And it was pretty complicated because if I were to take the old, we actually take this. This is going to be towards the end of the tutorial, so just hold up. Okay, yeah, good. So what I was provided, okay, good. That's what I thought. What I was provided was 2 sets of assets, and actually, yeah, I have all the steps here, which is good. So I was provided 2 separate assets, the front and the back. So this is the front sprite of the tree, and this is the back sprite of the tree. And you can think like, oh my god, what did you do? Well, this is what I did, exactly. First things first was I took the front sprite, got rid of the leaves, because I can't do all that together. I'm just going to think of the tree's roots on its own. And what I did was, as you can see here, oh, come on, just one, thank you. What I did here was I took a block, I generated a block. Let's do a block that's 20 by 20 by 20. And I made a blank block, placed it behind the tree asset, I said, okay, I'm going to place this here. And what I'm going to do, let's suck those two together, fuse it. What I'm going to do is first just carve out the foot. I'm going to carve out this section. I did it in pieces. I'm not going to do it all together because then I'm going to go nuts. So I just carve it like this. And the idea to get the perfect shape, or at least the shape that you think is going to result from this trunk. So now I at least got the tail of it. And you got to analyze it. You got to analyze it as a separate asset. You got to be like, okay, so how does this actually look? How does the trunk pull itself out? So like, I'm just going to show my face cam. So how does the trunk actually curve? Like how does the root pull out and move along the ground? Because the root isn't just a flat block. It definitely isn't. It's going to move itself based on like how Mother Nature wants it to root out. Like the roots are all going to accumulate and swirl together. And that's what she did here, is that the roots are going to swirl. So based on this swirl here, it's not going to be a flat like S curve. It's going to be a curve that comes out based on the lighting too. You can see off of the lighting here. You can see off that lighting that, okay, so that's going to come out. It's more prominent in the front. That's, well, sorry, I'm making it towards me. It's going to come out towards the front, come back in, and then come back out again, and swirl out. It's gonna like be a weird snake shape. So what I did is I did this all in chunks to get the right, okay, so this is going to be deeper, this is going to be closer in, this is going to be deeper, and I did all those curves to eventually get, like, this is what I did first. What I ended up doing was just carving and just pushing cubes just to get that depth. And in the end, it gave me this. I'm gonna fuse this all together. It gave me this, which I didn't really work out. So what I did was I took this, put it in the front, fused you guys together. Oh, I can't fuse you guys together. Put you in front. I did like what I would explain before. You fuse the two together just so you can get the colors through, and then you can color it in by going like this. You can just go like, okay, cool, let's start coloring this block, yada yada. You get the idea, right? You're gonna start coloring it in, it's gonna go all the way through, and you're like, okay, cool. And once you've colored this all in, and then I was like, okay, cool, let's start carving. And the way I was carving was, I'm not kidding you, cube per cube. Okay, this is deeper. Okay, so this is a darker color. It's going to be deeper than the lighter color. That's completely wrong. The way you're gonna approach it, the way you have to approach it, is to look at this sprite as a separate asset. You gotta put it on the side. If you have a second monitor, open the sprite in the second screen to have it as reference and the entire time while you're carving, so that you can look at this and be like, oh, okay, so this is going to come out. So what I'm going to want to do is actually have it, curve out like this. Let's just start with the rough cuts, the rough carving. Actually, okay, I want it to like curve out like this and then go in like this, just so that people get the idea of the root's supposed to curve in. And then it's like, okay, from here, you're going to start curving, you're going to start cutting out things that just seem unnecessary, so that the root actually moves the way it should. It feels fluid. These little extra cubes here and there don't really do much. So I'm gonna go like this, and it's like, so you get a better idea of how the tree is gonna curve. And ultimately, what's gonna happen is you're going to get wrong one. Voxels VR. Ultimately, you're going to get something like this. I kind of fused it in the end, so like as you can see, like the root kind of sticks out. This one kind of curves in, curves out in front, then back in, then back out. Same with the back here, curves out, and then what you can end up getting is, hopefully I have it here to show you guys. Yeah, what you can end up having is, I'm gonna go in free view so you can see better, is nice roots and nice designs. And the results, like the resulted renders, I think I'm gonna go this. The resulted render, if I can do this fast enough, like take a lot of your time. This. So as you can see, like the front is a lot harder to notice, but the back, so you can see like it gets that nice depth. You get that nice depth from it, the curves, it looks like the tree's actually rooting out and stuff. So that's So essentially what I'm trying to get at is that there's multiple ways to do pixels to voxels, and be aware of what kind of assets you're working with. Just small or large. Small, you can forgive it by just giving it depth and then carving. For larger stuff, you gotta think of it as a separate model. You gotta look at the pixel art and be like, okay, that's just a reference to what the shape is. And then you cut the rough shape from the sprite, and then you're like, okay, cool, now let's carve it to the way I want the object to actually move. So with roots, it's easier. If you want, go ahead and try to make a tree. Make a tree, design the roots, and try to follow the root design that you have in your head. If you wanted to swirl, make a swirl. It's going to be very tedious, but in the end, the results are gonna be nice. You're gonna have some pretty awesome results. And like this was like a good a dozen pieces. This was one asset. This was one asset. Like, do it all in small pieces. Don't ever do a giant chunk. You will drive yourself nuts. Don't ever do a chunk. Make it in pieces, then fuse it together when you're done, and you'll be good to go. So that's what I did with this. This was easily a good 20 or so chunks. As you can see, even my tiles, like for the terrain, it's none of it is just one piece. It's all different tiles that I could then place together and make an object tileable. You got to be efficient. You got to be efficient, or else you'll drive yourself crazy. Well, anyways, hopefully this tutorial helps you guys out. If not, I'm sorry. That's the best I can do to explain how to go from pixel to voxel, various formats, and hope to see you guys soon. If you want, go ahead and make a pixel sprite, turn it into a voxel object, and show me via Twitter or in the comments, or link me or something, and I'll see what I'll try to comment and criticize and help you guys out. So yeah, have a good one. Thanks for watching. This is a little bit longer, I'm sorry, but yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Have a nice day.